Open your eyes. अपनी आंखें खोलो.
There are certain things I do on the internet that I don't do in real life, including but not limited to caustically expressing opinions and speaking, but one of the things I used to do on the internet that I didn't do in real life is meet women. It's how I met a particular girl in 2001 when I was 20 in a now long-dead chat room. We were getting along swimmingly via text, and so I eventually set up a blind date. I decided to take her to Vanilla Sky because the trailers made it look like a psychotic girlfriend film, and if this girl turned out to be a psycho, I thought that would be funny. In the same way watching a plane crash movie on a plane that's crashing would be funny. I have a strange sense of humor, I admit, but that's alright because I'm only ever trying to make myself laugh. I only saw the film that one time, to be honest, and all I remember thinking when it was over is that the date ended a lot better than the film did. Eh? Vanilla Sky was written and directed by Cameron Crowe, who is most famous for having every profession ever. And I'm always conflicted about the man's work. He makes good films, but I never like them, which admittedly makes it hard to criticize. His characters are always vibrant and alive and multifaceted, and he's a master at telling stories through the use of music, particularly in this film. I'm just always left wanting when it comes to the stories themselves. Can't blame him too much for that on this one, though, because Vanilla Sky was actually based on a Spanish film entitled Open Your Eyes, which I haven't seen, but I hear was done much, much better than this, which is usually the case when it comes to one culture, particularly this culture, taking from another. In truth, this wasn't a psychotic girlfriend movie, that's just one aspect of it. What this film is actually about is reality, what is, as opposed to what we would like to be. The main character, David, is a wealthy new owner of a corporation left to him by his father, but the board of the company is thought to be trying to wrestle control away from him, although I'm still a little vague on how much that actually matters. He meets a girl named Sophia at a party, and the two quickly bond over the little things. It's actually a high point in the film, as it does a good job of emulating the exhilaration of starting a new relationship with someone new. And for a while, the film is rather straightforward and solid as these two get to know one another, and a rift forming between friends is threatened. As I said, Crowe is at his best when he's creating people, and regardless of the story that they populate, you always like getting to know them and seeing them get to know one another. But then eventually the psychotic girlfriend angle creeps in as an old fling of David's turns stalker and can't stand to see him with another woman. So in a scene that is so tense that I remembered every frame, even 14 years later, she drives them straight off a cliff. She's dead and David is stuck with a few deformities as his arm and his face are all fucked up. Kudos to how the production team handled this, by the way. I like how they didn't just take an easy route and make him the Elephant Man. His face actually isn't that bad, all things considered, but just bad enough to make everyone around him slightly uncomfortable. From here we see David adapting to his new physical condition, looking for solutions, and trying desperately to find normality in his life once again. This is all good stuff. If you watch the film, you'll notice that David is way more upset and put off by his disfigurement than anyone else is, which is how I think this would all play out in real life. Sophia doesn't give him the blow-off, but she is slightly less inclined to jump right back into the swing of things with him. But even the slightest hesitation on her part makes David paranoid that he's losing the life he once had. He makes a drunken ass out of himself and then passes out in an alley, only to awaken to things seemingly being fine. In fact, the transition is so jarring that you'd swear there was something wrong here. Of course, this is just a description of the framework. The film itself is played somewhat out of order, in keeping of the theme of dreams, which I have to admit I really liked. The whole film truly feels like a dream, with everything out of place and things not seeming to add up at first. From here, things start to get miraculously better for David. He continues his relationship with Sophia, his face is somehow fixed completely, and life is all happiness and roses until he's suspected of murder and has to prove that he's not insane. And if that piece of the puzzle seemed to come out of nowhere, then you're getting a good sense of what the structure of the film is like. Suffice it to say, the film turns into a what the hell is really going on here kind of mystery, and I recall one of my problems with the film the first time being that we weren't given any clues as to what was really going on by the time it was revealed. Upon seeing it again, however, I found that not only is that not true, it's so not true that it would be like complaining that Star Wars didn't give us enough clues that it was in space. Maybe the clues were just a bit too subtle for my underdeveloped 20-year-old brain, or maybe I just had other things on my underdeveloped 20-year-old brain. But either way, they practically shout at you what's actually going on in every scene. I won't spoil things from here, but I will say that when all is said and done, I can't shake this nagging feeling that the big reveal in the end is that half the film didn't matter. Maybe this was handled better than the original, but for a film tackling this kind of subject matter, you would think that certain questions would be raised about the nature of reality and how we perceive our own lives. But I didn't get that impression from the ending. Nothing is really questioned or pondered, the mystery is just sort of revealed and then everyone goes home. And so when everything was over and the mystery was revealed, I ultimately found the second half of the film to be interesting, but somewhat rather pointless. But still better than I remembered it. There are a lot of moments in the film that are absolutely worth your time, such as the sequence of running down the streets of a completely empty New York, or the eerie as hell restaurant scene. Even though the film has its problems, Crow does manage to pull a lot of it off. Certainly a lot better than material like this has been pulled off in different hands. I can't honestly say that none of this movie is worth your time, but it still strikes me as a whole lot of effort for not a whole lot of payoff in the end. Still, if you like strong character moments and surreal sequences, go ahead and give it a shot. Not much else to say about this one, so like the film itself, I will simply stop.